Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? But the big news today, of course, the Michigan Wolverines with 40 plus COVID cases on their team, ineligible to play this weekend against Ohio State, which currently would leave Ohio State ineligible per the Big Ten rules on returning to play for the Big Ten title game, which would come up not this coming weekend but the following. And before we even had jumped into this and knew this was going to be a thing, we knew it was a possibility. So I kind of threw the question of the week out there is should the Big Ten kind of change their rules? And obviously with what we saw with Coastal Carolina and BYU figuring out a way to play last week, I guess there's still a possibility that Ohio State could, reach out to a Texas A&M or some other team that's out there, find a way to play a non-conference game. But let's just kind of go under the scenario that they are not playing this weekend. They are not going to be eligible for the Big Ten title game. Should Ohio State or should the Big Ten kind of change the rules and allow Ohio State to play in the Big Ten title game, or should they just kind of stick to the rules that they had put out when they returned to play for this season? And to me, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation. Like it really is. It is a, when you have 40 plus cases between kids and staff and everything, like that's a terrible scenario. But like, to me, I think the Big Ten should stick to the rules that they set and just hope maybe that the committee is going to, feel bad for Ohio State if the right cookies crumble. If Notre Dame beats Clemson and Alabama beats Florida and those teams kind of get knocked out, and maybe you hope that the committee just goes, yeah, let's put let's put the Buckeyes in. Do I think they will change? I think they will, but I don't think they should. Sean, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and I kind of spoke last week about the way the Big Ten handled the season altogether, where I really think the Big Ten as a whole, whether you want to talk about COVID cases or not, really dropped the ball on this season. They made a stand, said we're not playing, thinking that everybody would follow. Nobody followed. And then all of a sudden they tried jumping in late with the shortened season, which was already setting us up for kind of a bit of a failure somewhere along the line anyway. And so now you have worst case scenario because you saw the possibility coming like we did. And now Ohio State's not playing a game. And for Ohio State, it puts them in a really strange situation because, like you said, they could schedule an out-of-conference game. But then it's like, who do you schedule? Obviously, you're planning on a shorter week. So are they. But do you go out and schedule an A&M for a stronger opponent, risk losing? And then if the Big Ten had been thinking about letting you in, did you ruin your chances there? Do you schedule a patsy, which kind of shows weakness? So you have some choices there. But I think the other weird thing for the Big Ten is weeks ago Wisconsin was ruled ineligible. Now they've since tanked their season a little bit with some losses anyway. Right. But there was no talk then. It's not like anyone in the Big Ten was like, well, we'll consider changing the rules. We'll bring up a meeting. There was nothing scheduled. It was like, sorry, guys, you're done. And is it a little different because it was their own cases? Sure. But like when you set this rule in stone, like I don't understand why they even set the rule. Like you really just kind of set this situation up once again by setting a minimum number of games. When you already were short enough anyway, why not just make that call later? Like, let a team in if they finish in first. Like, you can decide later what the tiebreakers are on an undefeated season, that kind of thing. But come up with a different way to do this. So I think it's upsetting for Ohio State, sure. I think it's embarrassing for the Big Ten anyway. And I think because of that, the Big Ten's going to have a meeting, and I've heard they already have it scheduled as far as whether they let Ohio State in, and I think they're going to at this point, in my opinion, let them play. Does it really change my opinion on Ohio State's resume at this point? Not really. I still think they haven't played really any quality teams. Indiana, you can make your argument, whatever Indiana is, seemed to be a legitimate team, so maybe that's your one win. But other than that, in a shortened season, I don't see the resume there compared to some of these other teams, assuming what's in my head plays out in the conference title game. But definitely a disaster for the Big Ten.
Yeah, and we'll kind of touch on some of those scenarios and how things play out when we look at the college football playoff rankings here in a couple of minutes. Here, Chase, who is from Ohio, is very much adamant that they should allow Ohio State to play an out of conference game, which, quite frankly, I would have no problem with that. I mean, we saw how things came together last week for BYU and Coastal Carolina. But Dave, your thoughts here on should or will Ohio or the Big Ten kind of change their stance from the preseason?
Yeah, so should or will they? Quite frankly, I don't care. I have the same opinion as Sean that the Ohio State is extremely overrated right now. Their strength of schedule's in the 70s. The last time I looked earlier this week, their opponents other than Indiana have a combined record of I think it was 6-18 or something on the year. So quite frankly, I don't really care one way or the other. If I'm Ohio State's AD, I think we need another game here with Cincinnati or Texas A&M to really boost that resume. And quite frankly, you beat someone in the Big Ten title game, Northwestern probably. Big deal. I mean, Northwestern's tougher than a lot think, but you need something to really boost that resume, especially if we have some chaos here that Florida beats Alabama and Clemson beats Notre Dame. You're not getting in even if you win the Big Ten without scheduling another
Right.
game there if you're Ohio State. Regardless, it's going to be an SEC versus ACC championship game here. So, or not championship, but playoffs. Do I think that they change? I think you have to change if you're the Big Ten, because realistically, Ohio State's the only team that gives you any type of chance to get into the playoff, and it's all about money, as we've said numerous times. Should they change? I agree with what both you have said. The rule's dumb to begin with. And I've heard that there's repercussions if Ohio State goes out and plays someone out of conference, so it's somewhere in there that they get in trouble. But realistically speaking, the Big Ten's not going to do anything. Ohio State runs that conference, and it really doesn't matter. But there's got to be enough schools that they could pick someone up to play. Maybe you play a BYU that was a darling last week type of thing, and can't this week, or pick up Coastal Carolina or someone that's that you should beat handedly. But I think we saw in the Indiana game that Ohio State's weakness, they have no secondary, and you got to be careful on who you schedule because they'll exploit it. It's kind of like my feelings on Notre Dame are pretty similar there, that they have some weak D-backs that can be exploited by the right team, but the run defense is fairly solid. So I think I think Notre Dame's better than Ohio State. I really don't know what to make of this Ohio State team because they floundered at the only test that they really had. They were up 21 or 28, and it came back to be a game versus Indiana. And if you're that good of a team, it should never come back that close, especially at home type of thing. So I think the Big Ten gives in and caves though, but I really don't care. I need a win out of Ohio State against someone else to really think that they're. I don't even want to call them elite because I don't think they're elite, but worthy of being included.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? Yeah, I mean, if you're Ohio State at this point, you're rooting for Alabama, you're rooting for Notre Dame. You want Clemson out of there, you want Florida out of there. You want nothing of any of those teams that are directly behind you. I think Texas A&M's season is over. So theoretically they can improve. Now, do I think their resume is better than Ohio State? I do. But the fact that, tonight when the college football playoff rankings came out, once again, Ohio State is above Texas A&M. So, if neither team plays again, which they don't, to me that says Ohio State is going to get in over Texas A&M, which I don't necessarily agree with. But, to me, that's what the committee told us tonight. Then you have Iowa State. If you're probably rooting for them to not win the Big 12. Cincinnati not playing this weekend, so they're only going to have one opportunity to play Tulsa in the AAC championship. So I don't even know if they can make the jump from 8 to jump Ohio State, whether Ohio State plays again, plays again or not. So Ohio State is rooting at this point for the least amount of chaos, and by that, the teams that are highest ranked above them, the undefeated teams, continue to win. Because, Herb Street said it tonight. Dave, you said it. I agree with it. Sean, I don't know if you do, but I would imagine you would, that if Florida wins the SEC title game, and this is assuming that these games are close. I mean, as we talked about last week when Nick was on the show, if Notre Dame gets blown out of the water by Clemson, if Florida blows Alabama out of the water, then things get even muddier than they were before. But if they're
don't agree.
Possibly. I mean, we're talking gigantic. But if you're within 2-3 scores, even Clemson winning by 21, Florida winning by 21, I don't see Alabama not going. I don't see Notre Dame not going. And again, especially, and the part of the reason we're having this discussion is because it gets tied back to money. Notre Dame getting in, that's money. Alabama getting in, that's money. Those teams aren't going to go away, especially this year.
Well, yeah, and you have, I mean, obviously, I talked about it last week with Notre Dame not going anywhere, and I mean, for Notre Dame to go anywhere, it's going to take that loss, but it's also going to take a lot of really big, strange wins from teams that are close. I don't see, on a regular slate of games and a regular slate of scoreboards, anything happening to Notre Dame. Now, obviously Florida's got to. The thing is, if Florida winds up winning, and the way they have been, now it's going to be tough for them because their defense is still, fairly weak and has just kind of been fortunate to be untested here in a lot of this run. But if they were to win, and their quarterback has any type of game at all, that game would decide two things. One, Florida is in, and two, that's probably your Heisman. If that guy leads the league in touchdown passes and only has thrown 3 interceptions, now maybe even he throws 2 in a game against Alabama but beats them, I don't see any reason why the quarterback Florida isn't your Heisman Trophy winner. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't think they're going to beat Alabama. No. You could bet my house on it. Please just take it. Anyway, but Ohio State has a really strange scenario here too. I didn't really add to it, but if you are going to schedule out a conference, they have the strange situation of strangely being able to beef up their resume without having to play what many would consider a power school, because you may have Cincinnati looking for a leapfrog game, and at this point, why wouldn't Coastal Carolina want to play another one? Would I want to play Ohio State and risk like a New Year's Day bowl? I probably wouldn't. I'd probably chalk it up, say, look what we did. We're pretty great. We're not in the playoff, but we're all. But if they added Ohio State and somehow beat them, all of a sudden I'd make the argument that Coastal Carolina is in the discussion, depending what else happens, because you would now add wins against a top 10 BYU and what everybody considers a proverbial top 4 Ohio State. You add those, that's as good a resume as anybody else up there in the top 4. So if you have a chance to schedule what some would consider a lesser team and still beef up your resume, but you risk that team jumping.
Yeah, if I'm Coastal Carolina, I mean, I'm dialing Columbus, Ohio all day. I am not stopping hitting the redial button on that one. But it's because right now it's Tuesday. Obviously, we saw how quickly BYU Coastal Carolina came together. We'll keep an eye on that. If you stick with us on our Facebook and Twitter and all of that, we'll stay on top of it as much as we can. And Sean, yeah, you brought up the Heisman trophy. We haven't checked in on the Heisman watch. This feels like such a strange year because you have had broken schedules and things like that. Like it feels like it's almost been a forgotten award. Mac Jones, quarterback of Alabama, at least according to ESPN, is sitting currently at number 1. Kyle Trask, the quarterback from Alabama, number 2. Trevor Lawrence, 3. Devonta Smith, the wide receiver for Alabama, is number 4. Justin Fields, Ian Book, Najee Harris, Jared Patterson, the running back from Buffalo, kind of rounding out this top 5, top 6 for the Heisman. But really, like right now, and I said, I said to my wife this weekend, I said, it's a kind of a strange year when Notre Dame is number 2 in the country. They're 10-0, and their starting quarterback isn't anywhere near the Heisman discussion. And I mean, I know they were kind of building it up on NBC that he should get some looks, and I think Ian Book has had a fantastic season, but it's been very quiet because it's very different than what the college football game kind of has become with high scoring offense and whatnot, because Notre Dame has kind of played a great run game. Ian Book has been great running the ball, and Notre Dame's really done it. With their defense. So for to me, as I'm looking at it, and Dave, we'll go to you first after me, and then to Sean. I look at Mac Jones at Alabama. I look at Kyle Trask. To me, it's down to those two, and I think whoever wins the SEC title game, because I think that's where voting ends after the conference championship games. To me, that's your Heisman winner. I mean, any of these guys behind them would have to have like unbelievable. I mean, like Trevor Lawrence would probably have to have like a 6-7 touchdown game against Notre Dame or something at this point to surpass any of these two. Possibly, if Trask has a big enough game, but Florida's defense kind of blows it, maybe he can get it in a loss. But I think it comes down to which quarterback wins this SEC title.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. It's really coming down to the SEC title game. I mean, the Vegas odds, I think you can get Trevor Lawrence 10 to 15 to 1 right now if you really think he's going to make a run and the third favorite there. But I think it's between Trask and Mac Jones, which is kind of disappointing because I think you look at the best college player this year, and I think you got to go between the wide receiver at Alabama and the tight end for Florida. And Pitts, I think is his name in Florida, but I can never remember the damn wide receiver in Alabama's name that you said earlier. But you look at the best college football player, and those two are the top of the line there, I think, from a lot that I've seen this year. But I think you've pretty much hit it spot on. And the thing that'll be interesting is if they have a pretty similar game, do Trask's numbers that are better than Mac Jones's take precedence here and give him the win type of thing? Or is it going to, kind of reference the game and how the game flows type of thing too? And Florida tends to pass the ball a little bit more than Alabama does, so that might play into Trask's hands a little bit too. But it'll be very interesting to see. But the other thing, kind of squirting around here a little bit, but I think that both Alabama and Notre Dame are locked in no matter what happens in the title games. That there's no way that they're falling out, even if they get blown out 35 plus. I think they're both locked in no matter what happens. So I really think that there's 2 spots left, and we'll talk about that later. But that's kind of my gut feeling on that before I forget it.
By the way, Sean, a passing touchdown for Lamar Jackson. So. Any hope that you had, I think, is pretty much cooked at this point.
Yeah, I saw. That was pretty much it. My only hope at that point was a soft tissue injury. That would have been about the only chance I had left.
My God, this Cowboys defense has more holes than a screen factory.
It's unreal. And although interesting breaking news from that game, Justin Tucker missed a 36-yard field goal.
36?
36 ends an NFL record 70 consecutive kicks under 40 yards was the number for Justin Tucker before that miss.
No kidding.
Kind of surprised it was only 70. He's so damn automatic.
I know, right? Well, I'm thinking that once they're inside of inside 40 yards, they just score touchdowns up to this point. So I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But good stat.
Yeah. Any thoughts there to the Heisman, Sean?
Well, I mean, I kind of touched on it. As far as that. And I'm kind of with you. I think the winner of that SEC title game probably did. I was a big fan of the dark horse from BYU, but with their loss, I think he kind of needed to go unbeaten to do it. Yeah. He's still going to get drafted incredibly high.
Oh, sure.
Heard a lot of whispers of Denver loving him, which would be a very short trip from BYU. would be a pretty nice fit for him. We all know Denver has a great track record over the last 20 years of drafting quarterbacks.
Isn't Drew Lock a rookie?
But that's what they're saying. Denver loves him. They might draft. I haven't seen a lot out of Drew Lock to crown him. I'm not saying that you want to replace him, but never a bad idea to have a backup plan. But yeah, I think kind of like Dave said, I think there's some players, and when you look at the Heisman watch, there have been a lot of years where defensive players were probably the best player in college football, and you're never going to talk about them. Wide receivers get missed. Generally, it's just like the NFL MVP. If you're not a running back, you're never going to even maybe challenge a quarterback for it.
Yeah.
At least not often enough. So, unfortunately, that's just the way the world works now. So if you ever want to win a Heisman Trophy, you better learn how to throw a football, or at least run an option, one of the two. But yeah, I think we kind of touched on the head on that. Heisman's pretty much locked down to 2, maybe 3 if there's a dark horse I'm unaware of.
Yeah, and we had kind of touched on kind of our thoughts on where the college football playoff and who those top 4 will be. We hit on that last week. So as we jump into our pick'ems for the week. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?